two, one. We are live for a new episode of Electrek Podcast. I am Fred Lambert, your host, and as usual, I'm joined by Sept Wintraub. How are you doing this week, Sept?
I'm good.
All right, joining you live from British Columbia. I'm doing a little road trip. I'm testing out the Cadillac Escalade IQ, which is a very impressive road trip vehicle. Honestly, I think 200 plus kilowatt hour under you when you're doing a road trip is is extremely useful. Getting over 800 kilometers of range. There's 5 people in the car, full of luggage for 10 days, and we fit like very nicely. The only complaint that I have, and that's like an error user more than anything else, is that I should have specified not to have the executive seat. So the GM gave me the executive seats. And if you're more than 4 people, and so you need to have someone in the back seat with the executive seat, you get the giant center console in the middle. And that does make the third row a little bit less useful because it's a lot harder to get in and out. And also they have less space because they cannot use the middle space for their legs. So that's my only complaint so far, but I should have just specified, hey, just give me the regular 6-seater captain seat, because you can get like regular captain seat, which are still nice, and you just don't have like the controls on the side. Michael stuff.
And are you seeing charging like 300 kilowatt hours, or sorry, 300 kilowatts or 200 kilowatts?
I haven't really had the need to really. So we pick up the car from Vancouver, and then we went to Whistler right away. So that's about like 200. Well, we went quite a bit past Whistler, so about 200 kilometers. Michael, can you stop that little farm cat here that keeps wanting to get some attention? Sorry about that. So it's a little over 200 kilometers. So that's nothing for the Cadillac, even if you're going uphill. And then we've been traveling around Whistler for the last 4 days, just doing hiking, some hikes every now and again, and going 100 or so kilometer each way every time. So we got the battery down to only about 50% doing that.
Oh, wow.
And
that's a huge battery.
So all we did is go to the grocery store, and there was like a charge point station next to the grocery store, and that's 125 kilowatt station. But if you're over 50%, like I figure it's not that bad, and it's a lot cheaper too. So like it cost me like $20, get it back to 100, and then we're going a long road trip later today. That's why the podcast is a little bit earlier. To go to next to Victoria on the Vancouver Island, and that's gonna be probably like a 4-hour driving plus the ferry. So now I'm back up to over 90%, and we're gonna get there pretty easy just from that. So I don't even know if I'm gonna have to charge after that much to get back to Vancouver. Probably if we decide to road trip a little bit more around the Airbnb where we're staying next to Victoria. But that's about it, really. So over 800 kilometers of range. So for American listeners, it's 450, I think 460 miles, something like that. It's just massive. Super Cruise is useful on the highway. Now, obviously, it's limited to where they have mapped out. So past a certain point, we past like Whistler, it's not super useful. But there's still lane keeping. There's still cruise control. And I really like it's a heavy vehicle, obviously, so it's extremely heavy, but you feel the weight at times. But again, you have a crazy, super powerful electric powertrain on there, so you most of the time, if you need the power, it's there even with the weight. The thing I like the less about the vehicle is just its size. I'm not really, but if you want a big vehicle, you get used to it at one point. But I don't drive big vehicle that much, and when you have to park that thing, it's not as fun, obviously.
Yeah.
All right, we have plenty to talk about. I'm gonna give you a full review of the Cadillac when I'm done with the road trip, obviously. So we'll have to spend too much time on it. But the cat just spotted something. We just got the release of the Model Y Performance this morning. Only in Europe, it's launching. This is being a little bit weird about this rollout of the Model Y. Like it's coming out in China, then Europe, and then US, and then performance version Model Y L is just in China right now. So it's kind of complicated to keep track. But Tesla earlier this week had announced that something's going to be unveiled specifically in Europe and the Middle East with a spoiler alert. That's what they put there. So we figured out it's probably something with a spoiler, and that would probably mean the Model Y performance. But the specs have been released today. The probably the most interesting thing about this the Model Y performance on the refresh Model Y is that it gets 580 kilometers of range WLTP, which is just 6 kilometers fewer than the long range all-wheel drive. Generally speaking, with the performance version of any of Tesla's vehicle, you lose a lot more range versus the longest range version because of the bigger wheels, because of the higher performance. It becomes less efficient, and then you lose quite a bit of range. Not the case here, and that's why the reason is Tesla says that they are new high voltage battery cell used in the vehicle. So we don't have more details than that, but I assume that as soon as delivery starts next month, we're going to be able to figure out a lot more about the vehicle and about those new cells that are interesting and could obviously at some point trickle down to other version of the vehicle. So 580 kilometers of range, that's 360 miles, but that's WLTP. And WLTP that it doesn't take into account climate control, so there's no, it's not as precise as the EPA rating, so you can expect a little bit less than that, but you should still get over 300 miles of range based on the difference between the long range version and the performance version in Europe on the WLTP. You should get something very similar.
Here's something that's weird. Look at the supercharge numbers. The supercharge to get in 15 minutes, you get 266 kilometers, and then on the performance, you get 243. That's 23 kilometers less. I wonder if there's a typo either there or in the range thing, because you're theoretically dealing with similar batteries, unless the batteries are just slower to charge. Maybe they have a special chemistry.
Yeah, that's probably just it. Like there's maybe they are a little bit better in energy density, but their charge rate is just a little bit slower. I mean, look at 250. Like we're talking about 20 kilometers over 15 minutes here, so it's not. It looks bigger because of the short period of time, but it's not that big of a difference. So Tesla figured out that it's better off having a little bit more range than the faster charging here, and it's still pretty fast charging too. But you're right. So
it's also surprising because it has the Arachnid wheels, which 21-inch wheels, which are also not very efficient. I wonder if that 580 kilometers is a typo. Maybe it's like 560 or something.
I don't think so, because Tesla specifically in the release says new high voltage battery cells, so to justify the closer range. So I think it's really the range. So it's what would be interesting is like if this thing makes it into the long range all-wheel drive version, like you said, without the 21-inch wheels that are killer for efficiency. Like this car would easily get over 620 miles probably of not miles, like kilometers of WLTP range, closer to 350 miles of range on the EPA. Like it would be impressive. Yeah. So a few other things that have been added to the vehicle are, like we said, the 21-inch Arachnid wheels, which first launched on the Model S back in the day. I still have those on my 2012 Model S.
Bigger touchscreen, slightly.
Yeah, bigger touchscreen. So it looks like they basically used the touchscreen in the Model YL that was a little bit bigger and like a little squarer. So, but it's just you gain a little bit less than an inch of touchscreen, but it looks a little bit better, to be fair. There's the new advanced multi-link suspension, electronic continuously variable damping and drive mode. So that's the same thing in the Model 3 performance. Then, so for people that are watching on YouTube versus listening right now, I have a picture up. There's a few other changes to the look. So the front fascia has been updated a little bit. Here you have a new air intake that's not there for the regular versions of the Model Y. The side mirrors are black, and obviously you have the spoiler behind. I don't know if we have a good. Oh yeah, we have a view of it here. Yeah, you have the spoiler here. Whoop! I have a little bee after me. That's the joy of doing a podcast outside. What else that's different? The seats are different. Do we have the interior? Okay, so there's a few design accents like we saw in the Model 3 Performance, the new seats, the Model 3 Performance, and that's about it, really. Should we watch a little video of it? Launch. The new badge for the Performance version 2 is in there. It's a good-looking car. It's just that the Model Y Performance, it doesn't attract me as much as like the Model 3 Performance. I don't. I would be curious to see like the percentage of sales, uh, model, what the performance version for the Model Y, what's the percentage of the Model Y sales versus the Model 3 Performance as a percentage of Model 3 sales. I'm pretty sure the Model 3 is much higher. Just more fun to drive. Start shipping in September at a price of 62,000 euros, the equivalent of 73,000 US dollars, but that's obviously with taxes there. So normally the performance version is about $5,000 more expensive than the long range all wheel drive or so. So you can expect that when it launches in the US, but we don't know when it launches in the US. Hopefully sooner than the Model Y L, since Elon said that won't launch until the end of next year. I think it will be much sooner than that, obviously, because Elon said that the reason that they are not launching the Model Y any sooner and might not launch Model Y L any sooner in the US and might not launch it at all is that autonomy is coming, and that won't be useful, even though it would be super useful for autonomy. But in terms of Model Y performance, like obviously it's a performance vehicle. You want to drive it. You don't you don't want it to be autonomous. But this is the new Model Y Performance. All right. Speaking of launching in Europe only, it won't help it sells that much, but Tesla badly needs it, because the latest data coming out of Europe is that Tesla is down 40% in July, and now down 37% year to date in Europe. So the
is 40% year
down
over year.
40% July year over year, 37% year over year to date. So January through July sales.
Jeez.
Yeah, it's pretty bad, and it's getting worse, as you can see, since the average through July is 37 and it was 40%. So Tesla went for basically 15,000 deliveries in July 2024 to just short of 9,000 in July 2025.
And
now the interesting thing, sorry,
they can't blame the Model Y launch or anything for 7 months.
Not for July. Yeah, not for July for sure. They can maybe that affected a little bit the year-to-date number, because yes, Model Y was less available for like February to through May, but June and July they had plenty of availability, and the demand is just not there. And there's a few explanations, and we're gonna get to that because we're going to talk about China earlier. That China has achieved a very interesting tipping point, as I posted this morning in an article. But it's a competition. Look at BYD here. So we have Tesla here down 40%. BYD in Europe is up 225%. And BYD has been in Europe for less than 3 years now, and it's already outselling Tesla with 13,500 deliveries compared to Tesla 8,800 in last quarter, last month. So this is obviously massive. And I know people are going to say, hey, there's PHEVs in there too. BYD sells a lot of PHEVs. BYD sells mostly BEVs in Europe. I think they have like 8 models of BEVs available throughout European markets, and 1 or 2 PHEVs. So it's mostly BEVs. And in China, there's a lot of PHEVs, but there's more BEVs too from BYD, and the share of BEVs are rapidly increasing. So this argument doesn't stand anymore. Year to date, they are at 84,400, up 290% versus the 21,000 that they delivered throughout July, the same period last year. So if you look at Tesla now, year to date, they are at 113,000 and BYD at 84. So at this pace, if this continues, they could potentially outsell Tesla for the whole year in Europe. with just being in the market for less than 3 years, which would be absolutely nuts. And we've been hammering that a lot at Electrek, but there's a big differences in the North American EV market versus the European EV market and the Chinese EV market. And it's not just different requirements. There's different regulations. That's true. There's different demand for a different type of vehicle. North America likes larger vehicles. Europe likes smaller vehicles. China is increasingly going larger, but for the most part likes smaller and specifically cheaper vehicles, but less expensive, I should say. But one of the other big differences when we come specifically to the EV market, because that could apply also to the broader automotive market, is that in the EV market, the competition is widely different in all of these three markets. And I would rank them as China is the most competitive by far. Then Europe is the second most competitive, but let's say 25% behind, since they put 25% tariffs on Chinese EV. And then the North American market is by far the least competitive one. And you see what happens to Westerners, American automakers, Western automakers, and Tesla specifically in those markets. Their sales are going down, while the only place that they are maintaining their sales or about that is North America, because it's the least competitive ones. So let's talk about that right away while we're on the subject. We'll come back to the Cybertruck and the self-driving stuff. It's the tipping point has been achieved now in China. According to the latest data from the China Association of Automobile Manufacturers, EVs have reached 51% market share so far this year in China. The last 5 months, the EV shares have surpassed 50%, and now for the whole years they are just over 50, right about 51%. That's all electric vehicle and plug-in hybrids. But to be fair, the BEVs are the majority of that. BEVs by themselves are at 31% market share in China. You have PHEVs, it's 51%. So this has often been seen as some kind of tipping point in the EV market. Like they achieve majorities of electric vehicles of cars sold or electric, then it's it becomes, if you're in the minority buying an ICE car, it's the tougher decision, right? Sept, you're like, oh, am I buying the old generation, the old technology right now? Because everybody else, the majority of people is buying electric. So that's kind of a psychological barrier that you just break. And for fun, I tried to compare to make a little comparison. I know that the markets are vastly different, but I look at Norway, which is obviously now at basically 100% EV sales, to get a bit of an idea of how fast things can move. And Norway achieved 50% market shares for EVs, and again BEVs, PHEVs, in 2020. So 2020 was the first year where they had 50% market shares for the whole year. And then by 2024, they were at over 90%. So in 4 years, they covered it took probably like 10 plus years to cover the first 50%, but then the second 50% can happen very, very fast. And I think we're going to see something very similar in China, where by 2029, 2028 even, you would see like 80, 90% market shares for BEVs, which would be used because China is by far the most important market out there. Not only the important market, but also the important manufacturer, because look at this stat set. In 2024, global electric production reached 17 million vehicles. China produced 12 million of those, and 11 million of those were sold in China. So China produced the majority of electric cars in the world and also consumed the majority of electric cars in the world. And now this market is at 51% and going to grow a lot faster. Right. This should be like a giant red flag for every manufacturer in the world. This is where things are going, and it's going there fast. So any kind of slowdown just because the US is like not fully in EVs right now, and the administration is kind of like throwing some sticks in the wheels of some EV manufacturers, you should be careful. I understand that, like, if the US is a big market for you, you want to supply vehicles that people want to buy in that market. I understand that, but that doesn't mean slowing your electric vehicle programs. If you do that, you're going to be screwed in a few years because of it. So it's really it's a, I understand that for all the manufacturers that are like not big in Europe and China and they're bigger in the US, it's a tough line to walk. But if you don't invest heavily in your electric vehicle program, you're going to be left behind. Because what's going to happen, it's already happening really in China, is that now there's so many manufacturers, there's a lot of players, and it's not going to be the case in 5 years. It's going to consolidate. A lot of them are going to fall, but the best one are going to rise on top. And then once they are on top of the Chinese market, they're going to set their sight overseas. And it's already been the case in Europe with NIO, with Xpeng, with BYD. But they're not going to stop there. They're going to want the whole thing, and they're going to be much more prepared than anybody else, because they're going to be already the most competitive one in the most competitive market, with extremely high volumes in China. Which should be a little bit scary for people.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like all the pieces are in for China just to take over, kind of. And you know how, like in Apple world, they're like, oh, we can't build we can't build phones in the U.S. It's just impossible. There's just no way. We don't have the supply chain. We don't have the workers. It feels a lot like, fast forward 10 years, we can't build cars in the U.S. We don't have the supply chain. We don't have the workers.
Oh man, you're right.
Yeah.
You're so right. Yeah, it's going that way. Because
Yeah.
that's the thing. Like,
and then we have Trump administration
Yeah.
saying, oh, we don't need to innovate on EVs.
Mhm.
So it's like, oh God, we're so doomed.
Yeah, because cars, weapons are the last like things that the US is like producing in a high volume and distributing around the world, and it looks like they're gonna lose that. And it's a sad thing.
Yeah.
Yep. Going back to Tesla, the Cybertruck is entering a new market set, and you won't believe which one it is. It sounds like a clickbait headline, but it is kind of true. It's South Korea. The Cybertruck right now, for those who don't know, is only available in Canada, US, and Mexico, so North America. But sales are not going well, so a new market could be useful. But South Korea is like kind of a surprising one. But at the same time, when I was in South Korea earlier this year, I saw a Cybertruck there, and I was like quite surprised. I didn't get close enough to see the plates or anything, so I assumed that it's someone that imported it by themselves, going through a few oops. But it could have been maybe the testing. It could have been a testing vehicle, because I couldn't get close enough. I literally saw it like just drive past an intersection. But there's a few explanations for that. Really, is first of all, Tesla is doing quite well in Korea. Their sales are strong, and they have a very strong fan base. They have a very strong investor base in China. Like, Tesla is the most popular stock to held by retail investors there. So Tesla is extremely popular in Korea. And Tesla obviously took notice, because they are not very popular in a lot of other markets outside of North America. So in the US specifically, really, because Canada is not doing well either right now. Europe is not doing well, and China is also sliding down, even though not at a rate of Europe, obviously. But so Tesla decided we'll take advantage of that. We'll launch a Cybertruck there. We think there's a market for it. However, like, I don't know how popular it's going to be, because it starts at 135,000 million South Korean won, which is the equivalent of 104 USD. So that's $24,000 more than the Cybertruck starts in the US. But I'm only counting the all-wheel drive Cybertruck, the regular one, not the cheaper one that the unveil, because I don't even know what they did that. Like, this one, like, doesn't have a lot of value. So yeah, but the Cybertruck is entering a new market. We'll keep track of the sales there. Would be interesting. When did they say when the sales start? No, I think they're gonna start confirming the orders soon. Yeah, they have. We're currently in the period where they start confirming the orders. So if you have a reservation in South Korea, you're gonna get another confirmation, like your reservation is gonna be transferred into an order, basically. All right, I published some Elon DMs this week, Sept. that Elon texted us like back in the day, because it's very relevant to a bunch of statements he's made this week. This week Elon's been in the headlines a lot for attacking Waymo specifically, but also more broadly, people using lidar and radar for the autonomous driving system. He accused them of being less safe than just vision. So Elon said here, LiDAR and radar reduce safety due to sensor contention. If LiDAR radars disagree with camera, which one wins? The sensor ambiguity causes increased, not decreased risk. That's why Waymos can drive on highways. We turn off radar in Tesla to increase safety. Cameras for the win. Now, this is straight up a lie, by the way. Like the Waymos do drive on highways. I mean, you can make the argument that it's not in the riders only mode right now for paying customers. It's only employee testing. But then that's the same thing. Oops, sorry. So I don't know if you heard that donkey just now. It just
Yep,
yelled
I
pretty.
can hear it.
It's gonna shut off in a
The
second.
donkey shut off that donkey.
But yeah, Tesla is doing the same thing. Tesla is not driving on highways without a safety operator in the car. So it's basically the same thing. So I don't know why he's even said that, as if like Tesla is in a better position than Waymo, because it's in the same one when it comes to highway, and when it comes to non-highways, then Waymo has a big lead because they don't have a safety monitor on city streets. So it's just not a good look. And then when you look at the idea of sensor contention and lidar and radars, first of all, he is partly right here, because it's true that it's a challenging problem. Sensor fusion, sensor contention is challenging. If you don't handle sensor fusion properly, it adds noise to the situation and makes it harder for autonomous system to operate. That's true. However, the way that Elon has a project, and this is one of several comments he's made this week. He also said LiDAR also not working well in snow, rain, dust due to reflection scatter. That's why Waymo stopped working in heavy precipitation. Again, complete lie. I posted several videos of Waymo working autonomously in heavy precipitation. As I said many times, there's a role for LiDAR and some sort. Oh, and then he says that LiDAR works well for his SpaceX, but won't work for cars, which is not true. But yeah, Elon is basically saying that because Tesla couldn't figure out sensor fusion won't work, and that's a fallacy. Oh, I cannot make this work, so no one can make this work. It doesn't work like that. And so I wanted to point out these DMs that Elon. So I was texting through the Electrek account with Elon in 2021, so right after they announced that they were going vision only and they were literally removing the radar from the vehicle. I was texting him, just try to get a better understanding of this, because it was obviously quite a radical move at the time, and still is today. And I asked him about the safety features, because when Tesla did that, so and this has been Tesla's modus operandi for a while. When Tesla transition to a new technology, they don't wait until the technology is ready to be equal to the previous one or better. They do it, and then it results in a regression, and then they try to play from behind after that and catch up to the features. In this case, it was safety features. It was several safety features that weren't available on new cars being delivered without radars. So I was asking him, like, this is pretty nuts. So how does it work? Like, what's the thinking behind it? Because obviously radar right now is safer if you can deliver those active safety features. And Elon says these things are all about probabilities. Nothing is certain. Well, in his new comments now, he sounds pretty certain. Per vision, reduced probability of injury versus vision plus radar, in our opinion. Yeah, okay, your opinion. But then that's where things get interesting. A very high resolution radar would be better than pure vision, but such radar does not exist. I mean, vision with high res radar would be better than pure vision. So he does admit that radar plus vision, if the radar is high definition enough, is better than pure vision. So he knew that when they remove the radar off of the car. Now, in this same conversation, I also pointed out to him next generation high resolution millimeter wave radar that were coming out, telling him like, hey, like what about this? This sounds like exactly what you're talking about. Also, lidar are basically very high definition radar, just using photons rather than radio wave. But that's another thing. He obviously has like a very strange fixation, eight fixation on lidar. Um, but there are now plenty of extremely high resolution radar. Waymo use six of them in their vehicle. They are out there, and Elon has admitted that if you use high definition radar plus vision, it is safer than vision. And that's basically what Waymo is doing. They are using lidar and radar at high definition plus 29 cameras and neural nets to power the system. Just like Tesla, they just have another layer of it. And unlike Tesla, with went all in on vision only 5 years ago, during that time, Waymo and other companies have been working to improve sensor fusion. So they have been making progress on sensor fusion, while Tesla hasn't been working on it at all. So obviously they are way ahead of Tesla when it comes to sensor fusion. And Elon is like, sensor fusion is the problem. Yeah, it's a problem if you haven't been working on it for 5 years. It's as simple as that, and it's really highlighting just how full of himself Elon is when it comes to autonomy, and that Tesla is the leader and all that. It's all lies basically. He knows it, and he knows that he should have probably kept working on radar and instead of going all in on vision. It's just that now he painted himself in a corner that if he goes back on, he looks very bad. And I think I worry honestly that his ego can be more important than safety of Tesla driver and road users in general, honestly.
Right. And Tesla profitability and viability in the future as well.
Yeah, because then if you, yeah, he really painted himself in a corner there, because if you admit that, you know what, you kind of need radar or even lidar to get level 4 autonomous system, then what happens to the millions of cars that you promise are gonna have
Right.
fully self-driving? It's not as simple as just retrofitting a computer, which is not, by the way, it's not that simple, but too, it's a nightmare, and that's why Tesla is not doing it for hardware 3 yet, because it's such a big uh, uh, program to roll out. But adding a radar would be even had a lot of complexity to the whole thing. Adding lidar would be probably impossible at this point. So he has to make vision work. That's the only thing. But maybe we're gonna see at some point like Tesla adding a radar sensor to new vehicles. Would be interesting. All right. We have a few more news items to discuss before we jump into the comment section. I know we don't have a lot of people in the comment section right now because we launched we were doing the podcast live a lot sooner, and we didn't warn you about it beforehand. We're sorry about that. Um, but if we have some people live right now that want to put some question for us, either about any of the subject that we discussed today or any of these subjects in the EV world that you want us to discuss, um, we can respond in maybe 10 minutes or so. So, sort of a good news for the tax credit. The IRS updated their website, giving it a little bit of a leeway to people buying cars this quarter. So, as we reported often in the last few months, the tax credit is going away by September 30th. And the way that the language was in the big beautiful bill that killed the tax credit, it looked pretty clear that you needed to take delivery of the electric vehicle by September 30th to take advantage of the tax credit. Now, in an update on their website, the agency wrote, if a taxpayer acquires a vehicle by having a written binding contract in place and a payment made on or before September 30th, 2025, then the taxpayer will be entitled to claim the credit when they place the vehicle in service, aka take delivery, namely when they take possession of the vehicle, even if the vehicle is placed in service after September 30th, 2025. Now, the curious thing about this is that they actually don't put end date to when they need to take delivery, put in service, as they say. So that's a bit weird, because technically, like, Rivian could reach out to customers and say, like, people that want the R2 instead of having a reservation like you have right now, we changed that into a binding contract. So for people that are very serious about taking the R2, I guess, and you have the binding contract by Centenary to it. You put a payment, a down payment on it, maybe a little bit more than your reservation, just to make it legit. And then technically they could take delivery early next year and still get the tax credit since they didn't put in it. But to me, like I wouldn't recommend that. Obviously, I don't think I wouldn't be surprised if the IRS doesn't support that. But technically, in the language, there's nothing about that not working. So it's strange to me. But at least, like in terms of, it should work. I would hope it would work for people that cannot take delivery by September 30th, but still have like a real order place with a dealer or a manufacturer, like for those that goes direct, like Tesla, Lucid, and Rivian. So it's a little leeway, or it's potentially a loophole, but it's not. I don't recommend it, to be honest. Okay, I already did the tipping point. BYD just broke a new EV speed record, going nearly 300 miles per hour with the Yangwang U9. We talked about it quite a bit. Now I think so. Is it the? I think it might be the regular one too, because we a few weeks ago on the podcast we talked about the track edition that's gonna get 3,000 horsepower in there. But the current U9, which is available to purchase right now, is 1,300 horsepower, and it apparently drove at 472.41 kilometers an hour. That's 293 miles per hour, which is absolutely nuts. So, and that was done certified at the ATP Automotive Testing Papenburg test track in Germany. They have a video of it on the YouTube. You can go check it out. They have the V-Box live on there. But yeah, that's pretty nuts. We're talking about beating the previous EV speed record by over 20%.
Yeah, that's not even close.
But it is wild said that we are like we are a good 10, 15 years in the EV, the latest EV revolution.
It's only a matter of time before an EV is the fastest car for sure.
Yeah, because it's still improving at a crazy rate. Like
it might
beating
even
the
be
last
this car.
record. Yeah, I mean the track version, the track edition of it, certainly with 2,000 horsepower. I don't know how they're going to keep that thing from flying away, but it is quite impressive. So yeah, it's really happening right now as you see EVs taking over, not just in terms of efficiency, not in terms of cost of ownership, but also like in all type of performance. And BYD is leading the way on that stuff.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah, go ahead.
It's just like super interesting, and I would be surprised if Mate Rimac, who, of course, is famous for the Navara and having quite a fast EV history out of Croatia, but also got thrown by VW into the Bugatti group. So he's now kind of the head of that, and obviously the Bugatti Chiron is one of the fastest. I think it's the second fastest next to the Koenigsegg. So he's got to be looking at this and. What's that?
They keep beating each other, like they keep going back and forth, basically.
Yeah, so he's got to be saying, "Hey, Bugatti, you're not going to win. You're not going to win with combustion. Let's move over to electric or something like that."
I think hell will froze over before that happens. Like Bugatti is next level when it comes to being reticent to go electric. But yeah, at one point they if they want to compete, they're gonna have to. It's just that's the only way, really. But some automakers are stepping back a little bit on their EV plans, and the next article is related to that. So Porsche announced that they are going to stop producing their own battery systems. So they have the Cellforce, they call it. So the Cellforce was their division, that high performance EV battery company, and they're gonna scale it back quite a bit. It's not gonna do any production anymore. It's just gonna be a research and development group with production being offloaded to other company, other suppliers. They cited challenging market conditions, especially in the U.S. and China. So they're talking about lower demand in the U.S. and too hard to compete in China, basically. So CEO Oliver Bloom said, for volume reason and a lack of economies of scale, Porsche is no longer pursuing its own production of battery cells. So there's going to be a staff reduction that's going to follow. But they said that the Volkswagen's battery unit PowerCo will take some former employees from them. So that's good. At least they're going to still have a job. But yeah, they're scaling back quite a bit with their EV plans. Now they're saying that they're going to keep releasing internal combustion vehicle well into the 2030s. But they're still going full steam ahead with their current plans. So the Taycan is still going, the Macan is happening too, and we're going to talk about the 2026 version that was released this week a little bit. And then the Cayenne is also coming electric, so that's the bigger SUV, so that's probably going to be good for their North American sales. And then there's the 718 that's also going electric relatively soon. But yeah, I mean, Porsche is kind of in a weird situation right now because Oliver Bloom was their CEO for a while, for a long time, and then now he's also CEO of Volkswagen, and now he's kind of like doing both at the same time. But not everyone is happy about that. So lately, in the last few weeks, there's been report that Porsche is actually looking for a new CEO and Oliver Bloom to fully move on to Volkswagen, so that they can have a little bit more of their own identity, I guess. Not that they're already quite separate, but they're still part of the Volkswagen group, obviously. And then let's talk a little bit about this new Porsche Macan, and then we're gonna jump into the comment section. I appreciate all of you that joined with us a little bit earlier to make the podcast a little bit more interactive. So we have Joseph here, we have Dean, we have Speculators as a regular watcher of the show. Appreciate you guys. The 2026 Porsche Macan EV has been updated with a lot of more like infotainment stuff, really, and connectivity features more than anything else. So you have the new Porsche digital key. So it's a new digital key fob that enables you to unlock like the car control function from your phone directly. So I'm always surprised when automakers are not like on board with that fully already. The Cadillac app, I had some issues connecting it to it, but I think that's more to do with the fact that it's not my car. It's a press car being loaned to me, and it was like complicated to get it linked to me. But once that was done, the app is like super useful. So I'm always surprised when automakers are not already like really well equipped on that front. They're going big with video games now. They say that they have this new, what they call it, the Air console system that enables you to connect your phone to the infotainment system and use it as some kind of control, as you see on the screen there. So you have a bunch of video games that you can download and play directly on your infotainment system. There's updated 3D surround view, so the 360 view has been improved quite a bit. They're using high-resolution cameras now for it. They have a new transparent hood system, so that you can like see through the cameras to the hood to know exactly how close you are to the curbs and whatnot. Which when you drive a Porsche, it's you don't want to scratch the wheel on the side of the curb, so these things are pretty useful. Towing capacity has increased. By 1,100 pounds now, 5,500 pounds, which is pretty decent for a smaller SUV like the Macan. And it's gonna start at $78,000, and delivery start spring of 2026. They went a little bit early for it, with releasing that now, even though it's not coming until the spring of next year. All right, let's talk to you guys a little bit.
4 p.m. came a little early today. That's because you're doing some boating, I guess, right?
Well, yeah,
Ferrying.
The Cadillac is pretty big. It feels like a boat.
All right. Joseph says, I'm surprised to hear about the South Korea market. I wonder what market research led to that. I was thinking maybe it was a battery thing. Like, the batteries obviously come from, or not the batteries for the Cybertruck, but they could source batteries for the Cybertruck there pretty easily. from LG, one of their suppliers. I wonder if
Yeah,
that's
but
part of it.
I don't think they're gonna change the. I think it's gonna be the 4680 that's produced, and I think they're gonna produce the whole thing in Texas and ship that out to Korea. Like they have the capacity, they have
But
plenty of
but
capacity to exit.
it makes no sense why they would do that, like Korea, as
I
opposed to
think
like.
they do believe that they're gonna have some decent demand in Korea. I don't know if I don't think I explained it well enough, but it's like all the Elon stuff has no effect in Korea, basically, or very
Right.
little effect. Like they don't care about that there. It's not they don't care about
Well, why
U.S.
not sell it in
politics.
China then?
I think that's more okay. That's the other aspect that I should have explained better. I think it's on a regulatory standpoint. I think Korea was easier. Like the Cybertruck's radical design is not easily adaptable to every market. Like I don't think they could launch in Europe at all. I think they would even in Australia. I think they would have issues. I think China is too difficult because obviously you're right. China would be better. Maybe the tariff situation too, like Korea. I think part of the the Trump deal that they made where they just get 25% tariffs is that the U.S. doesn't have any tariffs, something like that.
Oh yeah,
So
maybe.
that probably helps a little bit too, but it's still quite more expensive. But they the demand the hype around Tesla in South Korea cannot be overstated. Like the extremely hype there, sales are strong right now, and the investor base is extremely strong in South Korea. So they think they can sell quite a few. Just honestly, with the pricing, it's going to be hard, I think.
All right, let's move on. Dean McManus says LiDAR was very expensive when Tesla committed to vision only. I think Elon was betting on vision only so that he could sell a solution that wouldn't rely on expensive cameras and sensors. I think that's at least partially correct.
Yeah. That was a factor for sure. Like Elon, Elon wanted to have all the hardware in the car before self-driving was ready. So obviously that meant that even people that don't buy full self-driving and pay the amount would need to it will need to be profitable to put the hardware in there without the full self-driving package being purchased. So yeah, it makes sense that they had to reduce cost, which it really highlights how different of an approach Tesla has to all other companies developing self-driving technology, because other self-driving technology, they don't care about costs that much at first. They want, like, let's go completely overboard with the sensor suite, the computing inside the vehicle, even if it's not viable financially, to achieve to succeed, to achieve autonomous driving at a safety level that is decent, and then reduce costs while not reducing safety. Like that's the approach. Tesla was like betting that the hardware would be sufficient to full self-driving wi- without even achieving full self-driving or any kind of level of safety that was decent enough to be unsupervised. So it's completely different approach, and it's not paying off for them. I mean, it's paying off through misinformation, lies, and all that. That's maintaining some kind of a little bit of an aura where they are seen as leading in full self-driving in some circles. But in anyone that's looking at this with an unbiased approach, I have to admit that Waymo is like 5 years ahead at least.
All right, Specular's question: which non-Tesla automakers are best positioned for EV growth in North America?
We get that question a lot. It's a hard one, right? It's
I mean, I think Kia, Hyundai comes up a lot. I would throw GM. It's doing a pretty good job at the moment. The
yeah.
problem is, I mean, you're driving a GM vehicle right now that you're liking. I think one of my recent Cadillac adventures,
Up.
they told me that they were going to be 50% EV next year.
Like
Cadillac
Cadillac
is,
as a brand is doing well. Like they
yeah.
have. I mean, obviously it's SUV heavy, but that so is the North American market. But like between the Lyric, the Vestic, the Optic, and the Escalade IQ,
Yeah,
they cover the whole SUV market.
right.
Now it's not cheap. Like the one I'm driving right now, I think in the US it's probably fully equipped like that. It's probably 120, 130. I think it's closer to 200,000 Canadian dollars for us
Wow,
here.
that's
So
crazy.
it's a crazy expensive vehicle, but so is the Escalade
Right.
gasoline
Yes.
version.
Yeah.
So it's a very luxury vehicle. But then you can, the Lyric is, I've seen plenty of Lyrics driving up here actually, and then the very nice vehicle, way more affordable and a little bit smaller, obviously too. So Cadillac is doing well. Now the question is like, are they making money off those vehicles? Are they sustainable long term without the tax credit? With the tax credit going away, there's some questions on that too. So yeah, Hyundai Kia is a good move because they actually put some production capacity, some decent production capacity in the U.S. So they are able to manage with that. I would throw Ford in there maybe because I even though they announced some slowdown of their approach, they are they are aware of the Chinese threat. Like they understand that China is leading the way there, and they all know that the industry is going there. I think Farley is really on top of that. So if they do nail this next generation platform that they announced a few weeks ago, I think they are well positioned to still move the North American market to Electrek. Obviously, they disconnected the EV business to the regular business. Now the Ford Model E, we see that this is losing money, so they're not making money on their EV effort right now. But I think they are betting on the next generation, be able to get them over the top for that. And they hired a lot of great people to do it, a lot of tech people, a lot of early Tesla people like Doc Field and all that. So I think they have a good shot, but we won't see the result of that until probably towards the end of the decade, I think.
All right, and obviously Rivian, you could throw Rivian in there. They've got a big factory.
Oh yeah,
opening up.
yeah. I thought we were talking about legacy automakers, to be honest, but non-Tesla automakers. Yeah, Rivian is really well positioned. Lucid, we need to see probably their next gen more mass market vehicle before making a judgment, because they're doing well right now on the higher end and they have great vehicles, but it's very niche until they have mass market stuff.
Dean McManus says the problem with software visual cameras only is getting the 100% flawless operation that people expect, even though 100% is not possible. More sensors and cameras get closer than vision only can.
Yeah.
And I would say something else, like the goal is to be as good as human drivers, but like you need to be better than human drivers for the safety to come out. And Elon's thing has always been like, well, if humans can see with eyes, then cameras should be all you need. But you really need it to be better than just eyes, and for everybody to trust it. So I think that's another reason too.
Yeah, and Elon says like the sensor fusion is the problem, but he always like to go back to, like you said, the human drive, like how human drives. But human do sensor fusion all the time. Like we to determine,
you hear
like
sirens and
you hear sirens. You try to know exactly how far it is, then you can see it. Like if I have a cup here, like if I want to touch the cup, like I see the distance of the cup, but we do that a lot. Like the cup is maybe not because it's a static object, but like I do a lot of Muay Thai, and in boxing Muay Thai, you see your opponent right in front of you. You have a good idea of the distance from them, but you can miss a lot of shots just trying to get to them purely on a perception basis. So we say that you get your distance from your jab. If you touch them with your jab, now you have the good idea of the distance that they are. So that's sensor fusion right there. I'm combining my hands with my touch. I'm actually touching him. I know where he is, and then I can get him with the next shot. So sensor fusion is happening in humans all the time. It's a hard problem to solve on a computational approach, but I did cite a few experts in my article on it, and there's been great advancement in the use of specific mathematics to make it happen. So it's just Tesla. Elon doesn't know about it because Tesla is not working on it.
All right. Speculor says, question, GM is making a GM CCS1 DC adapter that allows new NACS-equipped cars to use their vehicle-to-grid power shift system. Does this mean that there is a NACS vehicle-to-grid standard now, perhaps unofficially? Well, NACS adapters are basically just pass-throughs. So GM is just using, the new adapter. I don't think it's. I mean, I wonder if you could, with that adapter, you could theoretically use like GM's system to have a Model Y back up your house.
But there's a standard, there's an ISO standard now for bidirectional charging. So I think they're just using that. So it's probably just certified for that. So yeah, but like you said, it's a pass through. So if it's certified to the protocol, then it does enable it could enable that for any car that support the standard, which is still like, I mean, it's fairly new. I think it's 2022 2023 the standard, but it takes a while before everyone adopts it and everything. So but it's a good probably a good adapter to have in your pocket if you are you have an axe car that you want to eventually bidirectional charge.
All right, let's move on. Question: the USA is clearly backsliding in EVs due to the Phantom Menace. Is that a new name for Donald Trump because of orange? Anyway,
That's a good one.
Europe still fully committed to EV adoption, or are they backsliding a bit as well?
Nah, I mean, Europe is with their lower tariffs on Chinese EVs, and that wasn't big enough to scare China. They kind of forced that way. They're gonna have to go that way. Now they are not as high at EV adoption as as China, for example. They're at 15%, but 15% is still twice the US adoption rate. So I think what we're seeing with BYD now growing 220% year over year in the European market, before really like Neo, Xpeng get any kind of decent volume there. I think it's going to move fast. Like Xiaomi coming in 2027. When they're going to come, I'm assuming they're going to come big, like they launch big in China. So it's going to happen. It's going to happen. It's already twice the rate, so it's already like significantly high. It's not tipping point like China, but I think we're going to see them by the end of the decade being more than twice the US, where the US is going to be.
Yeah, and there's little pockets of where obviously Norway and
oh yeah,
Denmark and the Netherlands are all
the Netherlands.
Like 50%. So
yeah, it's the bigger markets a little bit tougher, and they weren't as consistent with their incentives, and we are realizing right now that the incentives are not always as impactful as we think they are, because they are really efficient at like pulling them forward and backward. So you create some fear of missing out, and then the fact that you missed out after the fact makes you reticent to go electric. It's a weird thing, but it's a short-term effect though. So on the longer term, I think we're going to see the impact of the European market opening to China and all that.
Yeah, and the domestic makers like France and Germany that have a big domestic market are a little bit slower to adopt because the domestic automakers were slower to adopt to EVs. But I think the writing's on the wall there too.
Yeah, and Volkswagen, obviously the biggest one in Germany, which is the bigger market, is still pretty confident in their EV effort, and then you have the UK, which is open to China, and Chinese companies are launching there quite a bit. So I think it's going to move pretty fast.
Daniel DeYoung says, didn't Tesla buy a high definition radar company a few years ago? Did anything happen with that? When do you think he backtracks and adds radar back?
Oh, I don't know if I'm blinking about a radar company that they bought, or if you're wrong. I don't know that's the case, but if you can find it, Daniel, I might just be blanking on the fact, because I'm pretty sure I reported on every Tesla acquisition ever. But there've been quite a few, so I might be just forgetting this one in particular.
Tesla wisely started at the top of the market and worked their way down to sell EVs. So he's talking about like starting out with the Model S and the Model X, and then mid-range vehicles like the Y and 3. With autonomous, they flipped and started at the bottom. That seems to have been a big mistake.
Yeah, that's basically what I was trying to say earlier, but you put it more concisely. That's what I was trying to say earlier.
All right, the 6-seat Model YL would be popular in the US. Would it be in Europe? maybe once the rebate goes away in the US, they bring the Model YL. Elon can say he heard all the people begging for it and backtrack.
Mm-hmm.
It would not be his first. Well,
Yeah, the Model YL in the US would obviously be popular. I don't like. I mean, it depends on the pricing, but uh, the pricing in China is pretty close to the long range all wheel drive.
Yeah,
I think it's cheaper. I think it's cheaper than the performance version, if I'm not mistaken.
So Fred, you and I both know firsthand how worried Elon is about the Osborne effect, where if you announce a car in a market too early, people wait and they don't buy the Model Y. So I think he's worried about Model Y sales going way down as people wait for the Model YL. So I think that's a big part of that picture.
I would have understood that if like waiting until Q4 to launch it, because Q4 is going to be awful for Tesla in the US because of the demand being pulled forward in Q3 for the tax credit. But then he said it's not coming until the end of next year. So unless he's lying, and it's like for the reason that you just said, it was surprising. It doesn't make much sense to me, unless it's like a manufacturing reason. Like obviously you cannot ship it from China, and the Model YL is only being produced in China right now, and Tesla is not capable of producing it in the US in a reasonable time. That honestly, that might be the case.
How long did it take for the Model Y when it first, the new Model Y got released in China? I feel like it was like less than a year that it
No,
went from China to
the
US.
time that I would. That's probably a good article to look at when each of the models came out in different market and different version. Like I did look for the Model Y performance. I looked at like the Model 3 performance after the refresh last year. I think it was 4 months between the refresh and the performance version. Now it's been 5 months or 6 months for the Model Y performance launch after the Model Y refresh. Tesla does seem to have. Tesla always had issues running several vehicle program at the same time. It's probably the worst automakers at that. They like to be laser focused on something. So honestly, with all the talent exodus in the last few years, it might be becoming an issue for Tesla to have like simultaneous launch to other market. It did work for the Model Y refresh. They all launched pretty close to different market, but other than that, it hasn't been great.
All right, that's all from comments.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks a lot to everyone for listening to the Electrek podcast this week. Next week, I should be back. Home, so it's gonna be. I'm not even sure because actually I'm also leaving right after I come back to test the Can-Am Electrek ATV in Wyoming. So we'll see. We'll try to get the podcast on time at one point. If not, I appreciate for every one of you that makes it flexible so that you can join us live. And if you're listening after the fact too, you can give us a thumbs up, a like, a subscribe. That helps the show quite a bit, and it's free to do. All right, we'll see you next week. Bye bye.